You've heard your Prime Minister, Lester Bryant. Now it's your chance for him to hear from you. May I explain the protocol? I know everyone is anxious to ask questions. You've come here with a fair amount of anxiety. Mr. Leroy King, may I ask you to identify the individuals in the order in which they wish to ask questions. Vanetta Burton will be the person assisting by Johnny Guns that will pass around this microphone to each of you, so you don't have to leave your seat. I'd like for each of you, as you ask your question, to stand up if you wish, but identify yourself. May I also suggest that this is an opportunity to ask questions. No editorials, no preambles, no statements, questions. I think that's what the Prime Minister and the delegation wants to hear. Questions. No editorials, no extended statements prefacing your questions.
Mr. Prime Minister, let me take the opportunity, despite the Chairman's caution, to extend congratulations to you and your government. Now, you said in your presentation that each of us have the responsibility to leave a legacy to be carried on by our children. Now, I think that one of the strongest legacies that we could leave in Antigua are strong democratic institutions. And one of the hallmarks of strong democracy is respect for the laws, especially the decisions of the courts. Now, in 1979, 11 teachers were dismissed. In 1981, the Antigua High Court said that the teachers were dismissed illegally and they should be reinstated. In 1983, the Appeals Court for the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States agreed with the Antigua High Court and said that the teachers were dismissed illegally and they should be reinstated. To date, the government that you are a part of never honored that decision. Now you ask us to judge me by the content of what I do. My question, therefore, Mr. Prime Minister, is how willing are you to honor the High Court's decision to reinstate the teachers and pay them retroactively from when they were illegally fired in 1979. And remember,
as I said before, Mr. Chakawaka, I am part of the government in the past, very much a part of it. So I am not trying to exonerate myself from it. I will say to you that once the rule of law has demonstrated that the teachers, as you have quite rightly said, were wrongfully dismissed, I think the process should begin, a healing process, and that an attempt should be made. And if you want me to give an undertaking here tonight, that I'll put my Chief of Staff to make him meet with the relevant people in the Teachers Association to work out a methodology of dealing with this whole question as to what has transpired with the teachers over that period of time. As I said to you before, I am now the decision maker. I am the Prime Minister, first among equals, with a new cabinet, and we could continue to look backwards ad infinitum. But if a wrong has been done which is fundamental to the rule of law, as a lawyer myself, I feel that it is important for it to be rectified. And I'm saying to you that we will take whatever steps this new government in addressing this matter and finding a way of dealing with it to the mutual acceptance of both the teachers and the government itself. I hope that will help you to appreciate what I'm trying to say.
yes, sir, but can you give us a time framework?
No, I would be less than honest if I would tell you a time frame. What I will say to you, that I have no intention of dragging it out for the sake of political expediency. That we will deal with it expeditiously. By that I mean quickly, reasonably, and allow Mr. Sam Amer and appoint a couple of the people to sit with you and to determine how is the best way that we can deal with the matter. I am not interested in trying to lead you on and to give you a cute answer here tonight and don't significantly mean it. All I'm saying to you is, I'd be less than honest if I told you that I could stand here now and give you the time frame within which it can be done. What I will give an undertaking is that it will be done in what is patently a reasonable time for them dealing with this matter. It will be dealt with certainly within the next 6 months, I would say. We will look at this matter and arrive at some sort of understanding of it.
May I remind you that as you are identified as an individual to ask a question, that you first identify yourself by stating your name. Thank you.
Mr. Prime Minister, my name is Patrick Joseph. I'm originally from Seagrave. You mentioned in your speech a while ago about old folks. For the past 2 years, my wife and I'm a qualified pharmacist. My wife is a qualified nurse with a bachelor's degree and a master's degree in nursing. For the past 2 years, my wife and I have been trying to set up shop in Antigua to build a rehabilitation center which would include rehabilitating drug and alcoholics and a nursing home. We did an extensive study, a feasibility study, and we did a survey. And it all turned out that these are things that Antigua and Antiguans would be profitable with. I would like to ask you, why is it so difficult for Antiguans to set up shop home in Antigua?
Well, I need to know from you what are the obstacles that you ran into. Because clearly it seems to me that you are providing a service which is urgently needed in the country. Right. So I would have thought that you'd be encouraged. Now, are you saying to me that you went to the ministry responsible, whether it's the Ministry of Health?
I can explain.
That's what I need to know before I can address the question.
2 years ago, right, we did this feasibility study and we made up a proposal. I went through the Minister of Health, which was Honorable Adolphus Freeland. We gave him that proposal, and he in turn turned it over to his chief medical officer. Okay? We went through several meetings with the Minister of Health, Adolphus Freeland, and the chief medical officer. The chief medical officer decided, it took him maybe 8 months from the original date of receiving that proposal to get back to us. When he did get back to us, he asking us for our qualification. He asked us to send him licenses and different things, which we provided him with. But that wasn't satisfied. He in turn asking us for, money wasn't the issue because we had the money. He was asking us for plan and things like this. We did not have the land. We went through the government to lease a land. This is where the Minister of Health, the Ministry of Agriculture came in. And between the Ministry of Agriculture and the Ministry of Health, up to this day, we are still having problems in trying to establish this business. I have been to Antigua for the past 2 years, 3 times each year, trying to get this thing off the ground. And Mr. Prime Minister, I'll be in Antigua on Monday about this same business. On Monday, I'll be in Antigua about this same business.
Well, it is clear that you have a legitimate complaint, because somewhere between the two ministries the thing has got hung up. I don't know whether it is due to the bureaucrats or whether or not the ministers themselves have not been able to focus on it. I wouldn't want to stand here and tell you that I have a ready answer to that. What I do believe, however, is that I cannot believe that there is any reason why there would be a disposition on behalf of the government ministers not to encourage you to do this thing. I don't think that Comrade Freeland was unhelpful. I think he probably tried to help. But once you got to the question of land, I want to make it clear. I've frozen all distribution of lands in the country since I've become Prime Minister. And I've gone in and asked for an audit to be done on all the questions of the distribution of lands. How much land is left, so that we can put in place a proper one-stop situation. That's what we're calling it. So that you could go into one area, and you go in the door, and you can come out the other door with all the information you need and how you'll be able to get your land organized. Minister St. Luce has now been given the responsibility for doing that. And we're in the process, as I said earlier, of putting new systems in place, because a lot of the systems that are there are anachronistic. They're old colonial systems with colonial approaches to how this thing has been dealt with. And that is why they accuse me of saying I'm being too American, because I'm trying to put new systems in place which will help to accelerate the process so that a situation like yours does not continue. And I will just say, you're going to be in Antigua on Monday. Make sure that you get me up at the greenhouse, and I will try and follow this thing through for you to see exactly what has held it up. I'll make sure.
Stanley Humphreys. I suppose you know me very well, sir.
Know you very well.
Now, I think you abhor victimization.
Go ahead, make your point.
Make a point.
Yeah, make your point.
Did you know that, 18 years ago, I was waiting for this opportunity. About 5 years ago, over at Mr. Jacob's house, I tried to speak to your father, then Prime Minister. It happened so that I didn't get to speak to him. I worked in the Deepwater Harbor for 7 years. On the waterfront, I worked for 31 years. According to an agreement they had, that all your time on the waterfront would be calculated up to then. Sorry, sir. The 30th of June, 1976, Mr. Sweeney and Mr. Attis came up to me at the warehouse and passed me a letter. The letter said, as from today, your post become redundant. And all I got was 9 months pay. 7 months at the Deepwater Harbor and 2 months in lieu of notice. Mr. Old Perry, he retired and got paid. Annie Perry retired and got paid. Rupert Hector retired and got paid. Eustace Matthew retired and got paid. The question? You don't want to make that point?
Let him go ahead, man. Let him go ahead.
Anyway, I'd like to know if you can set up a machinery where we can go to the state, find out whether I'm justified or not.
Yeah. You see, Mr. Humphreys, I think you're an example of exactly what I meant. That in a small society, if the politics become so adversarial and confrontational, then you're going to find a lot of situations on both sides where people are constantly victimized. Which is why I keep arguing the notion that there has to be national consensus on those things that are important to the people, such as your rights as a worker to get your adequate compensation. We got to move away from this notion that because you perhaps were blue and white, that these guys were victimizing you, and that down at the APUA, a whole lot of people were laid off, and they didn't get their rights, and they had to go to court to get their rights, because depending on who is in power, they will determine whether or not they want to be fair to the person. There is no room for that in my administration. There is no room for that in the future of Antigua and Barbuda. I don't know the details, but you clearly seem to have a case. And if you're asking me whether or not we can look in to see exactly what transpired in your situation, I can give an undertaking in front of all these people here that I will do so when I get back to Antigua and Barbuda, and I will be able to indicate to you what it is that has been said. And I can assure you that I will do everything which will ensure that any compensation that you have coming to you, that at least it will be given to you. I don't think it is fair, I don't think it is right, and that is why we can't continue to have the kind of politics that we have in Antigua and Barbuda, where the constant thing is just tearing at each other. We have to deal with each other with mutual respect for each other's rights. And therefore, I give you my word, I look at any mechanism, but I look specifically at the situation that you refer to find out exactly what transpired and what your rights are in the situation. Yes, you can come and check me.
Good evening. My name is Jessica Joyce. 14 years ago, my sister and I came here. I came to get an education, and so did she. I've since completed that education. I've done a lot of things in my life that I'm especially proud of, but most importantly, I'm Antiguan, and that has meant the world to me. Now I say to you today, because you stood there and you said you're inviting us to come home. I have an education. I have the will to come home and work. And I want to make Antigua my home again. Because at this point, I feel like I'm a stranger in a strange land. I don't have a country. I don't belong here, and I don't know what's going on over there. So you tell me, what am I going to do if I return home? And what is the incentive for me to return home to Antigua as a young person? And I speak for a lot of young people here. What is the incentive? Thank you.
Can I be brutally frank with you? I believe that the major incentive that you should have is the desire to come back to your country and serve your country. That's what I believe. Okay, let's get that straight up front. If you want to come back, I think it's my responsibility to facilitate you to come back to Antigua and Barbuda to the extent that a small country such as ours, that's why I said before, I don't expect all of you to come back. To the extent that the economy and the country has the absorptive capacity depending upon your particular discipline. Now, I want you to help me here. What particular discipline are you involved in, my dear? What did you study?
Political science.
I say no more. How about engineering? Huh? How about dentists and medicine and social work? We need social workers. If they are prepared to transfer your knowledge and go into areas which are not on all fours with political science, then you do it. You understand? But I did this to political society such as ours. That doesn't mean we don't welcome you back home. But the reality is that political science, as important as it is not one of the things that we are looking for with any urgency in Antigua right now.